So before you go into an interaction or conversation, do you carry some kind of an assumption? This is Minutspirations. Today's topic, positive intent. So last week, one of my thought for the days was from Indra Nooy, who says, whatever anybody says or does, assume positive intent. So do you? Is that your strategy? So last week I had a chance to exercise that as I went down to probate my mom's will, or at least start the process. This was my second trip. The first trip was kind of a fact-finding trip to understand the process and the paperwork and all that. So this time I was ready, although a little bit intimidated because of the language. Legalese is not something in which I'm fluent. So I go down there and I got to tell you, I had a fantastic experience. And as I'm coming out of the office, going down the hall, I hear the elevator ding, and I round the corner. I sprint into the elevator, just about knocking this elderly woman down. And she kind of looked back and I said, "Whoa, sorry, ma'am." And she laughed. And as I got into the elevator, I was just kind of shaking myself off. And there was a really professionally looking woman in a dark suit, dark blouse, briefcase down, laughing at her phone. And she looked up and I said, "Yeah, pretty agile, right?" And she says, "Yeah." I said, "It must be these dress sneakers." And she goes, "Yeah, my husband has a pair." So we chatted for a minute. She says, "So are you done here today?" And I said, "Actually, yes, I was probating my mom's will, or starting the process." And she said, "How'd that go?" And I said, "Actually, it was pretty fantastic." And she goes, "Oh, do tell." And I said, "Well, I had two women that absolutely handheld me the entire process." And she said, "They worked there?" And I said, "Yes, actually." And she goes, "Well, how'd that happen?" I said, "Well, two things. One, I assumed positive intent. They were there to help. And two, I use a technique that I use quite frequently, which is I was less okay than they were. I had no idea how to navigate the process. So I didn't go in taking charge to say, this is what I want to do. I said, help. And they absolutely pulled me through. So the key is, if you are in need of help, you got to be less okay than the other person, right?" She goes, "Sounds good to me." So as we're parting company, I said, "Well, what about you? Are you done here for the day?" And she goes, "Actually, I'm going to the jail to help out one of my clients, and he's less okay than me, and I'm ready to help." Friends, be less okay when you need some help and get it done, and assume positive intent. Thanks for tuning in. Make today great. I'll see you next time.